imagination simply contained in the mind? Or does it tap into an unseen world with messages waiting to be told? There is a place where legends cross over into our world, where strange visions and whispers beckon, and superstition takes hold. Step into the Black Cat's shadow.
Welcome back to the Black Cat's Shadow. Join us as we take a closer look at the cases of the strange and unexplained from all over the world, and how they inspire some of our favorite horror movies. And my name is Andy. I'm your host today, podcasting from Kansas City, Missouri. I am your solo host today. I will be solo casting today because Dakota has gotten sick, so he's not able to make it for this episode. Everybody sending him happy thoughts. So anyway, so to start off with, I wanted to take a few minutes and devote some time to remembering Bill Paxton. I guess it's probably been a couple weeks since he passed at this point, but I still wanted to take some time to do this on this episode. So I thought it would be good to take a quick look at his film career and how he impacted in my life. I want to share that with you guys, how he impacted in my life and what he means to me, what in movies that I remember him best in. While maybe not an A-list actor for most of his career, I think he did gain mainstream success in his more recent roles. But I don't see that as a bad thing, really, as he was such an iconic actor to a lot of us growing up in the 80s. He got his start in the 1981 film Stripes, where he is simply credited as a soldier. Then there's an interesting 80s movie called Night Warning that I have not seen yet, but the cover art looks great. And I have to admit that cover art is usually what will draw me to a certain movie. Nothing will make me pass on a movie quicker than the cover art, and maybe that's shallow. I'm sure I've missed out on one or two gems because of this. Then there is Deadly Lessons, which is a made-for-TV slasher movie, also with exceptional cover art, and I haven't seen that one either. Then there's Mortuary from 1983, and this is the earliest Bill Paxton movie I've seen. That's right, I haven't seen Stripes, but oh well. Mortuary is a middle-of-the-road slasher that is seldom talked about, really. And if you've seen the trailer starring Michael Berryman, it's completely misleading as to what kind of horror movie it actually is. And the next movie I'll mention is his role in The Terminator as the lead punk. You know, the scene where the punk guys confront the Terminator. Bill Paxton says, "Nice night for a walk." You know, kind of being a smart aleck. Well, this is probably the first of those movies that I saw as a kid, as far as Bill Paxton goes. And that scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger punched right through Brian Thompson's chest, it was very traumatizing. Now, if you don't know who Brian Thompson is, just Google him. It's Brian Thompson. Just Google him, and as soon as you see his face, you'll be like, oh, that guy. So then Bill, he then goes on to play Chet in Weird Science in 1985. But then the role that I will always remember him for is the Marine Hudson in Aliens in 1986. It's such an iconic role with so many quotable lines. What more can I say? And I almost forgot. Bill Paxton was also in Commando. Although I'm straining to remember him in it, he is credited as playing an intercept officer, whatever that was. He was in a Miami Vice episode, and then another iconic role in the movie Near Dark. But I have to admit, I've only seen this one once, and that was a number of years ago, so I definitely need to check it out again. And with so many actors from Aliens, it's almost like James Cameron made a vampire movie. So there are many more movies and shows Bill was a part of in the 80s, but the next iconic role for me was in True Lies in 1994. He plays this slimy, sleazy used car salesman that Arnold Schwarzenegger's character just believes is having an affair with his wife. And it's a great scene when they meet up in that movie. So, other 90s roles, that he had were in Tombstone, Apollo 13, Twister, Titanic, and A Simple Plan, which is a really great underrated movie, I think, but that I don't hear many people talking about. So during the 90s and after is when Bill started getting more roles in mainstream movies. Is this a good thing? I don't know. I mean, it meant not getting him in more genre movies, but, good for him anyway, if he's getting the big bucks at that point. I think it allowed people to see the range that he had. His roles have included the good and bad of the human character, and in my opinion, was a great actor. Hell, even Jennifer Aniston teared up talking about his passing at the Oscars. Not that that is any validation for us genre film fans. No, I think being a part of iconic movies that were such a huge part of my childhood and helped to foster my love of cinema, and also helped me and my friends bond and become great friends, getting together on a Friday night to eat pizza and watch The Terminator or Aliens. I think that's validation enough. So here's to Bill Paxton. He will be missed.
Ready to get it on? You know it. I'm ready, man. Ready to get it on. Go! We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2.
Good. I'm ready, man. Check it out. I am the ultimate badass.
Yeah.
State of the badass art. Check it out. Hey, Ripley, don't worry. Me and my squad of ultimate badasses will protect you. Check it out. Independently targeting particle beam failings. For I have a city with this puppy. We got tactical smart missiles, phase plasma pulse rifles, RPGs. We got sonic electronic wall breakers. We got nukes. We got knives, sharp sticks.
Knock it off, Hudson.
Yo! Stop your grinning and drop your linen. Found them. I got signals. I got readings in front and behind.
Where, man? He's right. There's nothing back here.
Look, I'm telling you, there's something moving and it ain't us. They're coming out of the wall. They're coming out of the goddamn wall. That's it, man. It's game over, man. It's game over. Maybe it's like an ant hive.
Bees, man. Bees have hives.
You know what I mean. There's like one female that runs the whole show.
Yes, the queen.
Yeah, the mama. She's badass, man. I mean big.
So in episode 22, we're traveling along in our road trip to horror, and we're going to stop this time in Arizona. Arizona contains deserts, pine forests, mountain ranges, the Grand Canyon. It's even called the Grand Canyon State, and it has a variety of landscapes. But it is also home to a variety of urban legends and stories of weird events that are unexplainable even today. We're going to start off with a hotel in Arizona. It's called the Hotel Weatherford. It opened on New Year's Day in 1900. Guests have ranged from Teddy Roosevelt to Wyatt Earp. Some guests are still there to this day, though. In the ballroom, you might see a ghostly woman float across the room. There's a storage closet that used to be a hotel room for guests, but the legend says that a couple on their honeymoon was murdered there. People that have stayed in the room say that they were woken up in the middle of the night, and when they looked up, saw the bride and groom sitting on the foot of the bed. That would be kind of creepy, and visitors still report seeing the ghostly couple going into that room. Everybody knows about the Grand Canyon, but there's another smaller canyon that maybe not too many people know about, and if they did, they may not want to go there anyway. But it's called Luana's Canyon. So during the gold rush of the 1800s, a family decided to settle in what's known as Luana's Canyon or Slaughterhouse Canyon. It's part of the canyon that is southeast of Kingman, Arizona. The story goes, the father would leave for weeks at a time to mine and would bring back food and other supplies to his family when he came back. But he suddenly stopped coming back, and the mother didn't know what happened to him. So soon the mother and children, they ran out of food, and they began to starve. So the mother, either driven insane by hunger and depression, or just not wanting her children to suffer, killed the children. Some version of the story says she chopped them up. Others say she drowned them. And apparently all while wearing her wedding dress. The stories go on to say that you can hear her screaming at night in the canyon. And this next one is a more commonly known incident, I guess if you want to call it, urban legend. It's the Phoenix Lights. This is probably one of the more famous UFO sightings, and it was witnessed by thousands of people on March 13th, 1997. So what people saw, they saw a string of lights in the night sky that slowly disappeared one by one. There are 4 known videos on this sighting. I know at least one was posted on YouTube. The military maintains that these lights were just flares that were part of a training exercise. But one witness actually saw the UFO from below, saying it was this massive aircraft. She said it was like a shopping mall flying over my home, and it had these lights in front, and then it was totally illuminated underneath, like a yellowish amber. It was a totally rounded boomerang shape. So everybody knows about Bigfoot. Well, Arizona also has its own Bigfoot. It's called the Mogollon Monster. It is described as being at least 7 feet tall with fur of various colors covering its body. Footprints measuring 22 inches long have been found. People also report hearing weird howls that don't sound like any known animal. One sign you might be close to one is a sudden silence in the surrounding woods and a foul stench like a dead fish or skunk. In the mid-40s, it was spotted in Payson, Arizona, by a group of Boy Scouts camping near Tonto Creek. There was an earlier report of a sighting that was reported in the Arizona Republican in 1903. This happened in the Grand Canyon, with the witness calling the creature the Wild Man of the Rocks. They also said the hairy monster threatened them with a club and screamed the wildest, most unearthly scream they've ever heard. Apparently, the creature was found drinking the blood of 2 young cougars that it had beaten to death. The stories told of the monster also included speculation as to where it came from. Most deal with a tormented Native American seeking revenge. This lesser-known Bigfoot-type creature is seldom seen, leading many to believe it's just another campfire story. This is one that I've always been fascinated with, Superstition Mountain. Superstition Mountain is just east of Phoenix, Arizona. Legend has it that a gold mine is located in this region called the Lost Dutchman Mine. Dozens of people have searched for this mine and vanished without a trace. The Apache Indians say the thunder god protects the mountain and that it is sacred ground. They won't even venture there themselves. When Spanish conquistadors came to the area in 1540, seeking the 7 golden cities of Cibola, the Native Americans did tell them that there was gold there, but would not help them explore it. When the Spaniards went anyway, their men began to vanish mysteriously. Even if one man strayed more than a few feet from the rest of the group, he would never be seen alive again. They did find bodies of the missing men, and the bodies would be mutilated and had their heads cut off. The Spanish even named the region Superstition Mountain and believed it to be an evil place. There was gold eventually discovered on the mountain by the Spanish settlers that were brave enough to keep looking. The Apache Indians grew angry at the Spanish presence on the mountain and ambushed the Spaniards that were mining the gold, and any trace of the location was hidden. In 1868, Jacob Wallace settled on the south side of Superstition Mountain. He began hearing stories from the local Native Americans about the strange events that took place there, and also about the gold there. He soon met another gentleman named Jacob Weiser, and they teamed up to look for the gold, and they earned the nickname the Dutchman. So they traveled into the region of Superstition Mountain and were reportedly seen in Phoenix sometime later, paying for drinks and supplies and gold nuggets. They never did tell anyone where the mine was, and they were very clever in never giving away the location when they traveled there. There have been many prospectors that have went looking, and if they were lucky, just came back empty-handed, but others were never seen again. Is it just the harsh desert landscape that claims so many lives, or is there a protective presence watching over the area? This next incident actually inspired a movie, which I'll be talking about here in a little bit, called Fire in the Sky. And a lot of you may be familiar with it. I had actually never seen it before watching it for this episode. So basically the incident revolves around Travis Walton and what happened to him. So the story goes on November 5th, 1975, in the Sitgreaves National Forest near Snowflake, Arizona. 7 members of a lumber crew were riding in a truck. They were going home for the day when they saw a saucer-shaped object hovering in the sky above them. It was making a high-pitched buzzing noise, and one of the crew, Travis Walton, got out of the truck and walked closer to the object to get a better look. Walton says that a beam of light shot out of the UFO and knocked him to the ground. His coworkers were scared and drove away. I guess they thought he was dead. So after being struck by the light, Walton remembers waking up on a table surrounded by 3 aliens, whom he described like this. Their bald heads were disproportionately large for their puny bodies. They had bulging, oversized craniums, a small jaw structure, and an underdeveloped appearance to their features that was almost infantile. Their thin-lipped mouths were narrow. I never saw them open. Lying close to their heads on either side were tiny crinkled lobes of ears. Their miniature rounded noses had small oval nostrils. The only facial feature that didn't appear underdeveloped were those incredible eyes, those glistening orbs that had brown irises twice the size of those of a normal human eyes, nearly an inch in diameter. The iris was so large that even parts of the pupils were hidden by the lids, giving the eyes a certain cat-like appearance. There was very little of the white part of the eye showing. They had no lashes and no eyebrows. According to Walton's account, he leapt up from the table, grabbed an instrument on a nearby table, wielded it as a weapon, and swung it at the aliens. They filed out of the room. Walton walked into a room with a high-backed chair in the middle and took a seat. Upon operating a set of controls, he deduced that he was in some sort of an observatory. Suddenly, a man in a blue suit with a glass helmet came through a doorway. When Walton spoke to him, he didn't respond. He merely guided Walton through the doorway. The wordless man led Walton through a doorway out of a saucer-like object into a hangar filled with other saucers, down a hallway, and into a room that featured 3 more humans. Walton's questions continued to go unanswered as they motioned for him to lie down on the table. One of the humans, a woman, placed a mask over his face, and he immediately passed out. All this was consciously recollected by Walton, and when undergoing hypnotic regression soon after the incident, he revealed no further information and stated that he felt as though delving any deeper would kill him. So Travis Walton was missing for 5 days total. His coworkers supported his claims of being abducted. Skeptics called the whole experience a hoax, saying the group just wanted to make money off the story. Travis and his family were described as longtime students of UFOs. Also, another interesting note pointed out by a cognitive psychologist was that Walton could have been influenced by the TV movie called The UFO Incident, which was about the Betty and Barney Hill abduction, which I remember watching when I was a kid, and it was a really creepy movie, and I wish I could find it again. I think it's probably really hard to find now. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look for it now. But it was called The UFO Incident, and it was about the Betty and Barney Hill abduction. So that movie had aired just 2 weeks before Walton was abducted. Now, Travis did write a book about his abduction called The Walton Experience, and that was the inspiration behind the movie Fire in the Sky. Now, Paramount Pictures, they did spice up the story a bit for the movie, saying it needed to be flashier and more provocative.
How does it think? What makes it move? Why does it breathe? Questions anyone would ask about a man if they'd never seen one before. So for 5 days, a man was borrowed. The story that Travis Walton and 5 other witnesses told was so unbelievable, so unimaginable, that it has become the most famous case of UFO abduction ever reported.
Fire in the Sky was released March 12, 1993, and it was directed by Robert Lieberman, who's mainly known for directing some episodes of TV shows like The X-Files, the Dead Zone TV show, and Dexter. The movie was based on Travis Walton's book, The Walton Experience. The screenplay was by Tracy Torme, and Tracy is known for writing screenplays for TV episodes, mainly for Saturday Night Live in the early 80s, for Star Trek The Next Generations and for the TV show Sliders. So this movie, it had a pretty recognizable cast. Travis Walton was played by D.B. Sweeney, and he was actually in a Tales from the Crypt episode called Sterden Horror. He was in Spawn, and he was in a movie called Swamp Shark. And it also had Robert Patrick, which everybody knows as the T-1000 from T2, and also as Agent Doggett in The X-Files. And another actor was Craig Sheffer, and he's probably the most known by horror fans from the movie Nightbreed. And also he was in Hellraiser Inferno, and he was also in Dracula 2 Ascension. A couple other familiar faces was Henry Thomas from E.T., and also James Garner. Well, he was in the Rockford Files, but he's a pretty recognizable face too. So the movie, it does stray some from the book, obviously. I mean, any movie is going to be different. Even though, it says based off actual true events or whatever, it's just based off the events. It's not word for word. Like I said, the movie's based off the incident of Travis Walton being abducted. I remember when the previews came out when I was a kid, and this looked like it was going to be a pretty freaky movie just from the previews. And, because they really focused on the alien abduction and the things that happened to him while he was on the spaceship. But the movie actually focuses a lot more on the drama aspect. It focuses a lot more on what happened within the town while he was gone for those 5 days. It focused on the police investigation. It focused on the police questioning his coworkers, his friends. Like, the town thinks that these guys murdered Travis. There's a lot of drama going on. The movie was mainly more of a drama than anything, I would think. It was a good movie. It was a well-made production. It was a quality production. You could tell it was a bigger budget movie. It had great cinematography, had a good score, had great acting and good writing. I didn't find a problem with any of that stuff. There's actually a good depth of characters. It actually gets you attached to the characters, especially Robert Patrick, because his character, it really focuses on him, on his character, and like what he's put through, like what it pretty much destroys his marriage. And everybody in town thinks he's a murderer, thinks he's lying about what happened. And so you really get attached to his character. And also going back to the cinematography, they had some great film locations. They filmed in the forest. They used actual locations. They didn't use sets. It looks like they actually filmed in a small town. They filmed in Oregon. And so, you can see a lot of those beautiful Oregon forests in this movie. And I thought there was some great chemistry between the characters. When I say good chemistry, like, the relationships with the characters was realistic. The kind of the infighting with some of the coworkers, how they didn't all like each other sometimes, things like that. And just their reaction to his disappearance, the reaction to the situation. I thought that was really genuine. How each one reacted to the incident was interesting to see the range of emotions there. Now getting to the parts where Travis was abducted and I don't want to give any spoilers away, but there was a small portion of the movie that was really actually dedicated to this part. So I was a little disappointed in that. But the spaceship he's on, that looks great. The sound design was very creepy. So like I said, great production values on that. The aliens look really good too. My final thoughts on this movie. The movie is very different than I thought it would be. It's spending a lot of time showing the town's reactions to the situation. And probably a lot of the drama was added to the screenplay by Paramount to kind of spice up the screenplay, make it more interesting, I guess. This is really the story about the people that were still around while Travis was abducted. It's not so much about Travis. It is somewhat. It's kind of like his abduction is the starting point that gets everything else going. But you really get invested in Travis's friends, his coworkers, so much so that you kind of forget about the abduction through the most of the movie until the end when they kind of show what happened to him on the spaceship, or what supposedly happened, I guess I should say. But I didn't really like that. And I wish that they would have spent more time on the abduction. If they were going to add something to pad the movie or to make it more interesting, add something to the alien aspect. That's kind of what I wished, which I think they probably did. The part with aliens was great. It just wasn't enough of it for this really to be like a horror movie, or it was kind of freaky. But overall, I think this is more of a drama. And I think that his experience was just kind of tacked on at the end, with a few quick scenes. But as a movie, overall, it was a great movie. Technically, it was well made and everything like that. So, I would say, I would give it a 9 out of 10. I would say, check out this movie if you're interested in the story. It's on Netflix streaming right now. So, hey, if you got Netflix, you can watch it there pretty easily. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Now, this is probably a little bit shorter episode. It's just kind of the way it works with the Soulcast sometimes. But I appreciate your tuning in and checking it out anyway. As always, you can find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook. Just look up Black Cat Shadow. You can find us on Horror Amino. And also on Twitter at Black Cat Podcast. Our email is blackcatpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to join us for an episode, like if we're going to be talking about your state and you have some really creepy urban legends or ghost stories or anything like that you want to share with us, we'd be more than happy to have you as a guest host. I will say the next state we're going to be talking about is Utah. So any of our Utah listeners, let me know. Feel free to join in. Because I feel like actually having people on that live in these states adds a level of authenticity to our stories. I can do research online and things like that, but I feel like the people that actually live in these places are going to be the better storytellers here. So with that in mind, just send me an email. We'll get you set up to be a guest host if you'd like. Or another option, you can just write your story out on the email and send it to me, and I will read it on the show if you're comfortable with that. I won't use names or anything like that if you don't want me to. Our website is www.blackcatshadow.com. You'll find all of our episodes on there. You can check them out, and links to all of our social media, links to our YouTube channel, which I have only done a couple of horror pack unboxing videos. Life's kind of busy right now, so that's kind of been put on the back burner, but I really want to do some more videos. You can check out the eBay page that I have. I like to try to find some obscure movies and sell them at a decent price. You can go on there and see what I got. It helps me do the podcast. So yeah, like I said, next episode is going to be Utah, so stay tuned, and hopefully Dakota will be back. He'll be feeling better. Oh yeah, and I want to give a shout out to another podcast. They're BB and BC, which stands for Badass Boobs and Body Count Podcast. So a little bit about them. They talk about exploitation movies, B horror movies, B sci-fi movies, like a lot of like blaxploitation type stuff, or Italian horror, or just any kind of like. They talk about just some really great B movies. They're a lot of fun. The hosts are Mike, Iris, and Mark, and they all have great chemistry. They're all really funny. I have a great time every time I listen to them. And, I always find new movies to watch, and they're just great people. So definitely friends of the show. So I would ask you to give them a chance, give them a listen, check them out, see what they're all about. I know you definitely will not regret it. They're on they have over 200 episodes. They just did a website redesign. It looks great. They're doing articles on their website talking about different exploitation movies, things like that, different types of horror movies or different movies in that realm. So definitely go check it out. Their website is bbandbcpodcast.com. They also have a Facebook group. Probably just look at BB and BC podcast group. But there's always there's a really cool community on there. People are sharing pictures of movies and posting funny stuff, or just whatever, just things about these exploitation movies and things like that, different genre movies. So anyway, yeah, just go check them out. You won't regret it. So remember, guys, to take a closer look at the world around you, and you may just find that it is stranger and more mysterious than you thought, especially in the Black Cat Shadow.